When peace matters more than winning the conversation. Some conversations change us, not because of the words that were spoken, but because of the peace we lost trying to be understood. We've all been there. A difficult conversation, a misunderstood message, a reply that stayed in our mind long after it disappeared from our screen. We replay every sentence that we imagine every possible response. We keep searching for one more explanation, hoping it will finally bring us peace. But sometimes, peace doesn't come from saying more. Sometimes, it comes from knowing when to stop. This isn't a story about avoiding difficult conversations. It's about learning the difference between standing up for yourself and sacrificing your peace trying to win the conversation. Because there comes a moment when protecting your peace becomes more important than proving your point. Part 1.1, you respond. Part 1.2, the reply comes. Part 2.1 continues the deeper lesson. Part 2.2 concludes with protecting peace and letting go. Don't let your peace follow the conversation. Part 1.1. There comes a moment when a relationship changes. The closeness is gone. Conversations no longer feel safe. A message arrives. You read it. And instead of feeling understood, you feel accused. Now you're left with a choice. Do you silently absorb it? Or do you stand up for yourself? You choose to respond. You express your truth. You stand your ground. Whether that was the right decision or not, it's done. You responded. You expressed your truth. You stood your ground. Now what? After you've said what you had to say, don't let your peace depend on the outcome of the fire you exchanged. The reply has already left your phone. Your peace doesn't have to follow it. Don't spend the next few hours or the next few days living inside someone else's possible response. Your mind will create endless futures. Will they reply? Will they misunderstand? Will they become angry? Will they ignore me? Reality will choose only one. Respond to that one, not to the 100 your mind imagined. Protect your peace. Always. Don't let your peace follow the conversation. Part 1.2. After your reply is sent, then the reply comes. Maybe they still don't understand. Maybe they question you. Maybe they accuse you again. Maybe they ask questions that you can answer perfectly. You know you can explain. You can clear every doubt. But before you type another word, ask yourself one question. What will this explanation cost me? Another reply, another wait, another interpretation, another explanation, another day wondering what they'll think. Another piece of your peace, quietly following the conversation. If the cost of being understood is losing your peace, the explanation is simply too expensive. Not every explanation needs to be delivered. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Not every accusation deserves another conversation. The conversation is allowed to end even if every misunderstanding isn't resolved. Understanding is a gift. It is not a debt. You can offer an explanation. You don't have to keep paying for someone else's understanding with your peace. Not every loop needs to be closed. The engineer inside us wants to solve every open loop. But people are not software. Not every emotional loop needs to be closed. Peace is not the reward you receive after the conversation. Peace is the condition you refuse to sacrifice while the conversation is happening. Sometimes you respond. Sometimes you remain silent. The real strength is choosing the response that protects your peace. Protect your peace always. A life lesson for every relationship. Case when silence is abandonment and case when silence is required. Let's visit. Whether in friendship, love, family, or any meaningful human connection, when someone chooses to change a close relationship, clarity should come before distance. Honest communication is an act of respect. No one should be left to heal from questions that never had answers. Life doesn't always end with that conversation. Sometimes, after months of healing, you choose to reconnect through a simple conversation. It may begin with genuine curiosity, a casual observation, or a lighthearted moment. You aren't trying to revisit the past. You are simply having a conversation. Yet conversations don't always remain where they begin. Sometimes, without intending to, the discussion turns toward old wounds. You find yourself being asked to explain your thoughts, defend your intentions, or justify feelings that arose from a chapter you've already worked hard to leave behind. Other person asks as if it's a surprise on why you ask something or why you think so, as if the other person has no memory of the past. What could have been a simple response was converted as a disrespect and accusation on how bad you assume things, where in reality there was no assumption in the first place. There will be moments when you have a perfectly reasonable explanation. You could answer every question. You could defend every intention. You could correct every misunderstanding. But that's not the only question that matters. A life lesson for every relationship, Part 2.1. Whether in friendship, love, family, or any meaningful human connection. But if you recognize that continuing the conversation will not create genuine understanding and will only reopen a door that took months to close, it is okay to stop. You are allowed to stop when a conversation stops bringing understanding and starts causing harm. Wisdom is learning to ask a different question. Not, can I explain this? But, will this explanation create clarity, or will it simply disturb the peace I've fought to rebuild? Before you explain, ask yourself, will this bring clarity, or will it disturb the peace I've rebuilt? Not every silence is avoidance. Silence is abandonment when you disappear suddenly, without communication or clarity, and induces pain to the person who have built a close friendship bond with you and left to chaos just because you chose to walk away for your own personal reasons. Sometimes, silence is the boundary that protects healing. Silence can be strength. Silence can be self-respect. Silence can be peace. The greatest act of self-respect is accepting that your truth does not need another person's agreement to remain true. Your truth doesn't need approval to be valid. Protecting your peace isn't about avoiding difficult conversations. It's about recognizing the difference between the clarity someone deserves when a relationship changes and the endless justifications you no longer owe after you've rebuilt your own. Know the difference between what others deserve and what you no longer owe. A life lesson for every relationship, Part 2.2. Whether in friendship, love, family, or any meaningful human connection, life doesn't ask us to avoid conversations. It asks us to recognize when a healthy conversation has quietly become an emotional loop. Awareness breaks the loop. Awareness protects your peace. Here are the key lessons. When someone changes a relationship, clarity should come before distance. It's okay to be open to conversation and reconnect. Conversations can change direction. Stay aware. You are allowed to stop when a conversation stops bringing understanding. Your peace is worth protecting. You remained open to conversation, but you also learned where your boundary is. Boundaries aren't walls. They are wisdom. Remain open to connection. Remain honest when honesty is needed, but also learn where your boundary is. Sometimes, the wisest decision isn't to explain yourself one more time. It's to quietly protect the peace you worked so hard to find. You remained open to conversation, but you also learned where your boundary was. And that was right. Clarity is an act of respect. Silence is an act of self-respect. You don't always control how a conversation ends. Some endings arrive with clarity. Others leave questions that may never be answered. Not every ending will bring closure. Not every person will understand. And that's okay, because every conversation leaves you with one final choice. You can carry resentment, or you can carry peace. You can spend your days replaying the words, waiting for the explanation, chasing the ending you hoped for. Or you can carry forward the lessons while leaving the conflict behind. Protecting your peace doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you've finally learned that your peace is too valuable to be left behind in a conversation that's already over. Carry the wisdom, leave behind the weight, and wherever life takes you next, may your peace always travel with you. Heart and wisdom, lessons that stay, peace that remains.